Chief of IBM, IBM you have all heard of. Chief of IBM said once that there may be a market of 5 computers in the whole world. 5 computers in the whole world was the statement by Chief of IBM, not by Atomic Health. Dell's chief said, well, how the hell you can expect somebody to own a computer? Personal computer is a fiction, he said. It will never see the light of day. When telephone was invented, it's on record in the patent office. British government wrote, we have enough messenger boys, there is a need for a telephone. When television was invented, it's a quote in the records, who in the world has time to sit before the idiot box? And now we know how much time we spent as idiots. So all these were people who, being very knowledgeable also, did not believe that this can happen. How alternating current can be used in traction of railways. It was a great myth. How vacuum brakes can apply. It's not possible. Now we not only make use of vacuum brakes, but we also make use of electricity generated by the vacuum brake force to run the train. That's the kind of, what I'm trying to tell you is innovative thinking. But all these people who even made these statements did not lose faith on themselves. They kept working. Well, it looks difficult, but still we will not give up. And once they did not give up, they made the world move. Lord Kelvin, you might have heard, physics students. He said, heavier than air flying machines are impossible. This is Lord Kelvin, who has done enough contributions to physics. So there are so many people who felt things are impossible, but they made it possible. And as I said, innovation is also putting it to translation into a product. If it's a research paper, it's not an innovation in that sense. All of us remember who invented electricity. I think most of you will say Edison. Edison was responsible, probably the bulb which ultimately helped us all. But Volta contributed invention of electricity, Maxwell contributed, Ohm contributed, Galvano contributed, Oersted contributed, Faraday contributed, but those names are much less known than the person who finally made the product, which is useful to the society. IT people and computer science people have done that enough number of times. And I always look forward to my young students in whichever education institutions I go, because the environment is very conducive in the country. When I say the country, not only in the country, in the world, technology has enabled everything, which was never the situation earlier. Technology has enabled everything. Business models have evolved themselves over the passage of time, and it is now time for you to think wild, think innovatively, use all at your command, and if you believe me, when you succeed in the world, remember that a professor addressed us that you will not fail. You will not fail. You will be able to succeed in whatever you think. The other day I talked about, I read, I don't know how far it's the commercialization. They said if you are a frequent user of Twitter, and when you operate the computer, the heat captured by the keyboard from your body can predict about 8 days in advance that you are going to have flu. Now, if the Twitter is able to tell you 8 days in advance that you are going to have flu, at least if you can reschedule the things, you can take care. I can decide that I will not be able to come to the conference, that I am going to have flu. But the point is, these are the impacts we take it for granted when the things happen. And IT industry has given us enough which we take for granted. And innovations have happened, but we have to do more. Telephone is a research. But then from the telephone, making it cordless telephone is innovation. From the cordless telephone, making a push button telephone is an innovation. From push button to touch screen is innovation. Mobile is an innovation. While basic telephone is a research, but most of the utility of telephone is after a series of innovations which are happening, and that have made it useful. That is true of almost every field. I don't want to take the entire inaugural session in keeping on talking, but I may not stop till the evening because it's so enjoyable to talk to young students and convince them if you do not hamper your thinking process, none else can hamper that and none else can stop that you will be able to do something great. Just think great, do it, and you will be able to. I'm so happy to do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we rarely get this kind of opportunity to listen to the words of great personality like Mr. Joe. So let's have the privilege of listening to him. It's my honor now to invite Honorable Mr. Joe to kindly deliver his address. Please, sir.
1994. So thank you to this very good school for organizing this event and for inviting me today. My apologies to my fellow speakers because I was told that the event was between 10 and 12 and as a result I have to leave at 12. So I may have slightly upset the order of speaking, but I'll try to go quick. I'll just tell you a little bit about Wedge Consulting that I'm partnering in, so that you know what we're doing and that didn't go well. Oh, yeah. So basically, we're a full-service consultancy firm focusing on market entry services. So basically, we help foreign companies enter the Indian market and develop their business here. So we do business development, we do research and investigation, and we also work on M&As. We also do industrial project management, we build factories. So we have a fairly diverse portfolio of activities. We also, since recently, started advising companies in their CSR activities. Why I've chosen this theme is that, first of all, unlike probably most of the other people speaking here today, I'm pretty handicapped when it comes to social media. When it comes to managing my Facebook page, I have to ask advice to my 16-year-old daughter. So I'm not using it on a day-to-day basis. However, my clients are, and I think it's really important to understand how foreign companies can perceive the Indian market, because when you are inside, when you're part of it, you might have some feeling about it, but it looks very different from the outside. And what happens is that for a foreign company, at the same time, they can see the opportunities that India offers. But India is an extremely scary market. People are really afraid of it because they feel, and rightfully so very often, that they don't understand much about it. And the reason why they don't understand much about it, first of all, is because it is a very different culture. And what I often tell my clients is that due, among other things, to social media and the circulation of information, there is a form of uniformization of thought. People who are going to use the same language, who are going to refer to the same values, and who are more or less going to think in the same way. But there are still a few places in the world where people think in a way that can still be extremely different. And as it happens, India is one of them. And when you meet somebody who really thinks in a way that's different, it's very easy to think that that person is stupid. Because there is a cultural gap, because you don't understand what they say, and people tend to be dismissive. And when you start thinking that the person you're speaking to is stupid, it means that you really have a problem, because you don't understand where that person is coming from, you don't understand what that person wants, where that person is going. And if you want to conduct business in a place where you don't understand people, you're really bound to fail. So it's really important when people enter a new market, especially a market which is so different, which is so challenging, that people understand the people that they are going to encounter, the people that they are addressing with their business model. And that can be extremely difficult because there is such a huge diversity of the Indian consumer. I mean, India is a country where you can drive 50 kilometers and people don't speak the same language, they don't eat the same food, they don't dress in the same way, and they sometimes don't have the same face. And that is actually quite unique. And people tend to think, okay, is that even a country? You know, I mean, it's just, there is so much diversity that we cannot really even call it a country. It's a continent. But the truth is that when you also get to live here and to understand how the country functions, you understand that actually it is a country. There is something that is India that has also a unity in this diversity. And the really interesting thing about social media is that it is a tool that can not only help you to reach, but also to understand this huge diversity of people. And that's why basically what the marketer has to deal with in order to reach the consumer is to deal with geographical regions. The geographical location in India can have such diversity of climates, of environments, of religion. It's absolutely huge. It has a huge impact, and very often a geographical approach of the market is required. There is the urban-rural divide, which is an extremely strong divide, although the urban exodus, the exodus of people from the countryside to urban zones, is actually also creating a mix of all this, but there is still a very, very strong divide between the urban consumer and the rural consumer. You have very varied education level, where people who are in schools such as yours benefit from a very high level education that's recognized all over the world. You can work basically anywhere you want and you're going to be recognized. But people who are, for example, going to require a technical qualification, who are going to be electricians, or who are going to work for soldering, or all these technical jobs that the industry needs, very often companies complain that middle range technicians are also not available, and very often you have huge masses of people who also have a low level of education, and that many companies are going to have great problems communicating with. In spite of that, we have some amazing success story. I mean, for example, there is an Italian company called Perfetti who has brands like Mantos and Alpenliebe. I have to confess that when I saw these guys arrive in India with a product like Alpenliebe, you know, I was thinking, what the hell are they thinking about? You know, nobody is ever going to buy a product that they can't even pronounce, you know, forget remember. And a few years later, their product, Alpenliebe, was sold throughout India in so many villages, and people were actually remembering by name. Kids were going to shops and asking for the product, and that is an amazing success. And today, social media is something that really can help marketers understand and reach this diversity of population, because the amount of data that it processes on people's everyday life, the tools that it gives you through everyday innovations, where we see new Facebook apps appearing, new mobile phone apps appearing, new protocols of communication, new ways to integrate multimedia. We have a lot of tools to reach these people, so for information to go from us to them, and to understand these people, so information to go from them to us. And this two-way flow that social media is giving us is actually a very, very valuable tool for companies that want to enter a new market. And I think it's a very important subject to discuss and to research and to work upon, because actually it's a tool that is really, really underused by companies. I mean, to be very honest, most of the companies I see who want to enter the Indian market, I'm sure it's true on every market, but my specialty is India, don't use many tools. Very often they'll send some director who will spend 1 week in 5-star hotels, will come back and thinks he has understood the country, he has met some guy in an exhibition, and he'll want to tie up with him, and that's how he's going to start doing business. And of course, after 1 year, he's got cheated by his partner, he's brought the wrong product with the wrong pricing, addressed the wrong markets, he's going to lose a lot of money, he's going to get into litigations, he's going to close his company, and then he'll come back to his country and he'll say, oh, India, don't go there. Like, you know, there's no way you can make money here. And I don't have much sympathy, of course, for these kind of people, because they really, really don't work well. But the truth is that there are tools. There are tools of market research. You can come, you can take advice, you can go to the consumers. And it's true that before, to go to the consumer, we needed, you know, take a piece of paper with a questionnaire and send people in the streets and start asking questions. Today, social media in particular is a tool that gives you the possibility to identify groups of people who have certain kind of consumption patterns, who have certain kind of incomes, certain kinds of behaviors, who are attracted towards certain kinds of products, and to go towards them to make sure that you only deal with people who have clicked on certain kind of links and who have actively shown an interest in certain kind of things. And you can, as a result, really work on a sample of people that is really the kind of people that you want to reach. And when it comes to market entry especially in a place which is as diverse as India, this is extremely interesting. And one of the points that I'm going to really emphasize on in this presentation is the spread of social media on mobile telephony, which is really a revolution because, as Professor said just before me, the reach of mobile phone has really overtaken the reach of landline. Also for a simple reason, is that landline requires a very heavy infrastructure. You need to pull cables, you need to connect every house. It's extremely heavy. Mobile telephony is extremely easy to deploy. You have an antenna with a usually 3-kilometer reach, and the infrastructure required to connect a region is actually much lighter than with a landline. I remember when I arrived in India in 1994, I had to pay 30,000 rupees to some guy to actually transfer his landline to me, because it took, I don't know, years just to get a landline. It was absolutely crazy. And what Dr. Singh was saying earlier, I really remember it. I had to book calls, and sometimes, you know, the call that you had booked in the afternoon, they'd call you at 12 o'clock at night and say, oh, we got your call from France. Like, okay, whatever, let's take it, because I don't know when I'll be able to have it. I remember I wanted to recruit a guy to work as a maid in my house. The guy came for an interview and he left. And the next day he gave me a call to tell me that he accepted the job. I remember I was so shocked that somebody from this socio-economic group would actually use the phone and call me that I put down the phone and I laughed and I told my wife, I said, next time he's going to send us a fax. In those days, the fax still existed, now it's more or less gone. But anyway, it was really a shock. And today, you can call your Sabjiwala on his mobile phone and he'll come and give you 1 kilo of carrot. It's absolutely crazy. So the spread of mobile telephony, of smartphones, and the deployment of social media on smartphone is actually very interesting, not because you guys are consulting Facebook on smartphones. I mean, we know you, we can reach you. That's not really a problem. But because those other guys in the countryside, in lower socioeconomic stratas, at least in the higher level of the lower socioeconomic stratas, are using mobile phones, are using social media, and that is one population that we are starting to get information about and that we could never dream of touching so quickly and so easily before. So I think that's one of the interesting things, and that's what I'm going to talk about. To give you an idea of the diversity, I mean, 72% of Indians live in more than 600,000 villages. That's absolutely huge. Only 100,000 of these hamlets have a population of more than 3,500. So they're just microscopic. Reaching these kind of people is a huge job. Very often they are in places where you have no roads, where, you know, sometimes they have no electricity, and sometimes in places which have no electricity and are going to have mobile coverage. You know, that's absolutely amazing. 15 million Kirana stores, that's also incredibly huge. And that's a very important factor of diversity, because retailing network, reaching the retail is very important when you want to sell a product. 62 socio-cultural regions, 23 languages, very varying rates of literacy, from 91% in the south of India to 50% in some states of the north, which is absolutely huge. I picked up this example, which I found really interesting. When Kellogg's introduced their breakfast cereals, they wanted, of course, a shift from the traditional breakfast idli dosa to Kellogg's cereals. And they emphasized on the crispiness of the thing, without realizing that actually people didn't like to use cold milk, but were actually using hot milk. And the whole USP of the product disappeared when you put hot milk, because when you put hot milk in Kellogg's cereal, or you put hot milk in local cereals, you get basically the same thing, you know. And that's a typical example of a company that didn't understand the market, that didn't know its market, and invested